Ladies and gentlemen, the ability to pause is often underestimated in its significance, yet it holds a profound impact on how we navigate through life and leadership. In our fast-paced world, there's a constant push to keep moving forward, to stay ahead, to produce more, achieve more, and prove our worth through relentless action. We've glorified the grind, celebrated the hustle, and applauded those who seem to power through without a moment's rest. But what we seldom acknowledge is the value of stopping, of pausing, and of stepping back to truly understand where we are, where we're headed, and whether the path we're on aligns with what we ultimately want. When we think of progress, the natural tendency is to imagine forward momentum, a straight line from point A to point B, uninterrupted and seamless. But real progress is rarely linear. It is messy, filled with unexpected detours, moments of uncertainty, and most importantly, pauses. These pauses are not signs of weakness or failure. On the contrary, they are where clarity is born. It's in the moments when we pause that we gain the ability to see the bigger picture, to reassess our priorities, and to recalibrate our direction. Without the pause, we risk blindly forging ahead without questioning whether the road we're on is the right one. The pause gives us permission to ask the critical questions we often overlook in the busyness of our daily lives. Why am I doing this? Is this still serving me? Have my goals changed? Am I chasing something out of habit, or is it still connected to my purpose? These are not questions that can be answered while we're running at full speed. They require a stillness, a moment of reflection that allows us to turn inward and truly evaluate the choices we're making. And yet, so many of us resist this stillness because it feels unproductive. We equate pausing with stagnation, and in a culture obsessed with constant productivity, it can feel counterintuitive, even uncomfortable to stop. But the truth is, the pause is not a lack of action, it is intentional action. It is a deliberate step back to observe, to learn, and to understand. Imagine a hiker climbing a mountain. They could push forward relentlessly, never stopping to catch their breath or look around, focused solely on reaching the summit. But what happens when they pause? They get to see the beauty of the journey, the views they've already passed, the progress they've made. They might notice a better route to the top, one that's safer or more efficient. They might recognize that they're carrying unnecessary weight in their pack, or that the weather ahead requires them to adjust their plans. The pause allows them to climb smarter, not harder. It's the same with life. When we pause, we give ourselves the chance to take stock, to celebrate how far we've come, and to adjust course if necessary. Pausing is also where creativity flourishes. When we're constantly in motion, our brains are focused on execution, on completing tasks, on meeting deadlines. But creativity requires space. It needs room to wander, to explore, to connect seemingly unrelated ideas in new and innovative ways. Some of the greatest breakthroughs, whether in art, science, or business, have come not from moments of relentless effort, but from moments of pause. Einstein famously said that he often came up with his best ideas while playing the violin, a form of pause that allowed his mind to think differently. The pause creates the conditions for innovation because it allows us to think beyond the immediate and consider the possibilities. Pausing is not just about gaining perspective, it's also about preserving energy. Imagine a marathon runner who never takes a water break, who pushes through every mile without slowing down to replenish. They might make it for a while, but eventually their body will give out. Life is no different. When we refuse to pause, we deplete our energy reserves, both physically and mentally. Burnout is not a badge of honor, it's a sign that we've ignored the need for rest and reflection. Pausing allows us to recharge, to come back to our work and our goals with renewed vigor and focus. It's not just about taking care of ourselves in the moment, it's about sustaining ourselves for the long haul. The fear of pausing often stems from a fear of what we might find when we stop. When we're busy, we can avoid confronting the difficult truths about our lives or our choices. But when we pause, there's no distraction. We have to face the questions we've been avoiding, the feelings we've been suppressing, and the realities we've been reluctant to acknowledge. This can be uncomfortable, even painful. But it's also necessary. Growth comes from facing the uncomfortable truths, from addressing the misalignments in our lives, and having the courage to make changes. The pause is not about avoidance, it's about confrontation, about facing ourselves with honesty and compassion. Moreover, pausing is an act of humility. It's a recognition that we don't have all the answers, that we need time to learn, to reflect, and to grow. It's a rejection of the ego-driven need to always appear in control, to always have a plan, to always know what's next. Pausing acknowledges that we are human, that we are a work in progress, and that it's okay to take time to figure things out. It's a reminder that life is not a race, but a journey, and that sometimes the most meaningful progress happens not when we're moving forward, but when we're standing still. Let me know if you'd like me to expand further or refine this section. To reset is not to admit defeat. It is an intentional and profound act of reconnection with our purpose. In the rush to meet deadlines, achieve goals, and check off accomplishments, it's easy to lose sight of the deeper why behind what we do. Often we become so consumed with the mechanics of getting things done, following routines, hitting metrics, or meeting expectations that we rarely pause to evaluate whether these actions are still in alignment with our core values or long-term vision. Resetting offers us the chance to step back and ask the most fundamental question: is this still what I truly want? Life has a way of pulling us in directions we didn't initially plan. We start with clear intentions, driven by passion or a specific goal, but over time, external pressures, societal norms, and unforeseen challenges can subtly shift our trajectory. Before we know it, we may find ourselves chasing objectives that, while impressive on paper, don't necessarily resonate with what matters most to us. Resetting is the moment we take ownership of this realization. It's the space where we stop and realign, ensuring that every effort we make is meaningful and deliberate, not simply a continuation of old habits or obligations we've outgrown. When we reset, we allow ourselves to go back to the foundation. It's not about discarding everything or starting from scratch. It's about revisiting the core reasons behind why we began in the first place. Think of a musician tuning their instrument before a performance. The instrument hasn't lost its value, but without recalibration, the music will lack harmony. Resetting is our recalibration. It brings us back in tune with our aspirations and gives us the clarity to play the symphony of our lives with intention and purpose. Without this, even the most accomplished performances can feel hollow or misdirected. In our careers, for instance, it's not uncommon to become so focused on climbing the ladder that we lose sight of why we wanted to ascend it in the first place. Was it for fulfillment, financial stability, personal growth, or something else entirely? Resetting forces us to confront these questions. It's a moment to evaluate whether the ladder we're climbing is leaning against the right wall, or if we've simply been climbing because it's what we thought we were supposed to do. The courage to reset comes from understanding that it's better to realign than to keep ascending toward a destination that doesn't truly fulfill us. Resetting also allows us to strip away the noise. Over time, our lives can become cluttered, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. The opinions of others, societal expectations, and even our own outdated beliefs can crowd our thinking and cloud our judgment. We carry unnecessary baggage that weighs us down and keeps us from moving forward with clarity. Resetting is the process of decluttering, of peeling back the layers to uncover what truly matters. It's not always an easy process. Letting go of what no longer serves us can feel like a loss, even when we know it's necessary. But in doing so, we create space for new opportunities, fresh ideas, and a renewed sense of direction. What's powerful about resetting is that it's not just about looking forward, it's also about honoring the past. It's a chance to reflect on the journey so far, to acknowledge the lessons we've learned, and to carry those lessons with us as we move ahead. Every misstep, every failure, every unexpected turn has contributed to who we are today. Resetting is not about erasing the past, it's about using it as a guide. It's about taking stock of what worked, what didn't, and what we want to bring with us into the future. This process of reconnection with purpose isn't just for individuals, it applies equally to teams, organizations, and even communities. When groups reset, they reignite a shared sense of mission. They revisit their collective why and ensure that their actions are aligned with their values. Without this reset, teams risk becoming siloed, disengaged, or misaligned, which can lead to burnout and dissatisfaction. A team that resets together can emerge stronger, more focused, and more united in their pursuit of a common goal. Resetting requires vulnerability. It means admitting that perhaps we've strayed from our original path, or that we're no longer inspired by the goals we once set. It's acknowledging that change is not only inevitable but necessary for growth. This vulnerability is where the magic happens. It's in the willingness to let go of what no longer fits and to embrace the unknown that we rediscover our strength. Resetting doesn't make us weaker, it makes us more adaptable, more self-aware, and ultimately more connected to our true selves. It's important to recognize that resetting doesn't have to be a grand gesture. It can be as simple as taking a day to reflect, journaling about our goals, or having an honest conversation with ourselves or others about what's working and what isn't. Sometimes it's about making small but meaningful changes, adjusting our routines, saying no to commitments that drain us, or setting boundaries that protect our time and energy. These small acts of resetting can have a profound ripple effect, realigning our lives in ways that bring us closer to fulfillment and joy. Ultimately, resetting is an act of self-respect. It's a declaration that we are not willing to live on autopilot, that our lives are worth the effort it takes to pause, reflect, and recalibrate. It's a statement that our purpose matters and that we are committed to living in alignment with it. Resetting isn't about giving up or starting over, it's about finding the courage to reconnect, the wisdom to realign, and the determination to move forward with renewed clarity and purpose. Restarting is not a retreat, it is an act of immense courage. It is a deliberate choice to begin again, often in the face of uncertainty, fear, or doubt. There is a vulnerability in restarting that makes it feel intimidating, especially when we have invested so much time, energy, and effort into the path we've been traveling. To restart requires acknowledging that the direction we've been heading may no longer serve us. It means stepping away from the familiar, even if it's flawed, and daring to embrace the unknown. This is not a decision made lightly. It's a decision born out of deep introspection, and the recognition that staying the course for the sake of comfort or pride will ultimately lead us further away from our purpose. There is an inherent strength in admitting that a change is needed. Society often equates persistence with success, praising those who stick with their goals no matter the cost. While perseverance is undoubtedly important, there is a fine line between determination and stubbornness. Restarting is not about giving up, it is about being wise enough to know when to pivot and bold enough to take that first step in a new direction. It's a testament to our adaptability and our willingness to learn from experience. Every restart carries with it the knowledge and lessons of what came before. It is not starting from scratch, it is starting from a place of growth. To restart is to confront the fear of failure head-on. It's to understand that failure is not an end, but a stepping stone. The greatest innovators, leaders, and thinkers have often restarted numerous times before achieving their breakthroughs. They've faced setbacks, reassessed their approaches, and dared to begin again. In doing so, they've shown us that progress is not about never falling, it's about rising each time we do. Restarting embodies this principle. It's not a sign of weakness, but a demonstration of resilience. It is an acknowledgement that while the previous attempt may not have worked as planned, the vision remains intact, and the drive to achieve it persists. Restarting is also an act of hope. It is fueled by the belief that better is possible, that the future holds potential worth pursuing. It requires optimism even in the face of adversity. When we restart, we carry with us the dreams and aspirations that sparked our journey in the first place. We reignite the spark that may have dimmed along the way and use it to light a new path forward. This hope is not naive, it is grounded in the understanding that change is not only inevitable but essential for growth. Restarting is a commitment to progress, to becoming better versions of ourselves, and to building a life that aligns with our values and aspirations. Restarting often means stepping outside of our comfort zones. The familiar, even when it is no longer serving us, can feel safe. It's human nature to cling to what we know, even if it's not fulfilling, because the unknown is fraught with uncertainty. Restarting requires us to embrace that uncertainty. It challenges us to let go of the security of the past, and to trust in our ability to navigate whatever lies ahead. This is no small feat. It takes courage to step into the unknown, to take risks, and to face the possibility that the new path may not be easier or more straightforward. But it is in these moments of discomfort that we grow. It is in the act of restarting that we discover our true strength and resilience. Restarting is not an isolated act, it is often deeply connected to the people around us. Whether we're restarting a career, a project, or a personal journey, the relationships we cultivate along the way play a crucial role. A restart may require us to seek out new mentors, build new teams, or forge new partnerships. It may also involve letting go of relationships that no longer align with our goals. This can be one of the most challenging aspects of restarting, as it forces us to confront the dynamics that may be holding us back. However, it is also an opportunity to surround ourselves with people who uplift and inspire us, who challenge us to be better, and who share our vision for the future. Restarting is a process, not a single event. It begins with the decision to change but unfolds over time. The first step is often the hardest, but each subsequent step builds momentum. Along the way, there will likely be moments of doubt, moments when the temptation to return to the familiar feels overwhelming. But it is in persevering through these moments that the power of restarting becomes evident. It's not about erasing the past. It's about building on it. Every experience, every failure, every lesson learned becomes part of the foundation for the new journey. The beauty of restarting lies in its potential. It is a reminder that we are never truly stuck, that no matter how far we've traveled down a particular road, we have the agency to choose a different path. Restarting gives us permission to redefine what success looks like, to set new goals, and to pursue them with the wisdom and perspective gained from our previous efforts. It is a declaration of our belief in our ability to grow, to adapt, and to create a life that reflects our true selves. Restarting is not the end of the story, it is the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with possibility and purpose. Refocusing is an act of discipline, one that requires us to sift through the noise of our lives and identify what truly matters. In a world filled with endless distractions, demands on our attention, and the constant pressure to multitask, clarity is often the first thing to erode. We find ourselves pulled in multiple directions, spreading our energy thin across countless responsibilities, projects, and commitments. It's easy to mistake busyness for productivity, to assume that because we're doing a lot, we're achieving a lot. But true progress doesn't come from doing more, it comes from doing what matters most. Refocusing is the process of stripping away the unnecessary and directing our full attention to the things that truly move us closer to our goals and purpose. Refocusing begins with the hard truth: we cannot do everything. As much as we might wish otherwise, our time, energy, and resources are finite. Every time we say yes to one thing, we are by default saying no to something else. The challenge lies in ensuring that our yeses align with our priorities and that our nos are made with intention. Refocusing is about getting brutally honest with ourselves about what deserves our energy and what does not. It's about recognizing that some things, no matter how urgent they may seem, are simply not important in the grand scheme of our lives and work. This is not an easy realization, especially in a culture that equates busyness with value and productivity with worth. But it is a necessary one. The process of refocusing requires reflection. It calls us to take a step back and assess where our time and energy are currently being spent. Are we investing in the tasks and relationships that matter most, or are we caught up in the minutiae of the day-to-day? Are our actions aligned with our long-term vision, or are we allowing ourselves to be swept along by the immediate demands of others? These questions are not always comfortable to answer, but they are essential. Without this reflection, it's all too easy to find ourselves on autopilot, doing things simply because they've always been done, without considering whether they still serve us or our goals. Refocusing also involves clarity of purpose. To know what to focus on, we must first know why we are focusing on it. What is the bigger picture? What is the bigger picture? What is the goal? The vision, the purpose that we are working toward. Without this clarity, even the most focused efforts can feel directionless. It's like rowing a boat without knowing where the shore is. You may be expending effort, but you're not necessarily moving toward your destination. Refocusing brings the shore into view. It reminds us of what we're working toward and ensures that our actions are purposeful and aligned with our greater vision. Distractions are the enemy of focus, and in today's world, distractions are everywhere. From the constant ping of notifications on our devices to the unending stream of emails, meetings, and social obligations, our attention is under siege. Refocusing requires us to take control of our environment, to create spaces and systems that support concentration rather than undermine it. This might mean setting boundaries, turning off notifications during focused work, saying no to commitments that don't align with our priorities, or carving out dedicated time for deep work and reflection. It might also mean learning to let go of the need to respond immediately to every request or interruption. Refocusing demands that we protect our attention as one of our most valuable resources. Another crucial aspect of refocusing is the ability to prioritize. Not all tasks are created equal, and not all of them deserve our immediate attention. Refocusing requires us to differentiate between what is urgent and what is important, and to prioritize the latter. Urgency often creates a false sense of importance, leading us to spend our time putting out fires instead of working on the things that truly matter. Refocusing is about stepping back and asking, what will have the greatest impact? What is the one thing I can do today that will move me closer to my goals? It's about recognizing that doing less, but doing it well, often leads to greater success than trying to do it all. Refocusing is not a one-time act, it is an ongoing practice. Life is dynamic, and our priorities may shift over time. What was important yesterday may no longer be important today. And what is important today may not be important tomorrow. Refocusing requires us to regularly revisit our goals and recalibrate our efforts accordingly. It's about staying flexible and adaptable, while still maintaining a clear sense of purpose. This is not to say that we should constantly change course. On the contrary, refocusing often involves recommitting to the things that truly matter, even when they are difficult or take time to achieve. But it also means being willing to pivot when necessary, to let go of what no longer serves us, and to direct our energy where it will have the greatest impact. Ultimately, refocusing is about intentionality. It's about taking control of our time and energy, rather than letting them be dictated by external forces. It's about making conscious choices, rather than reacting to whatever comes our way. This requires discipline, but it also requires trust in ourselves, in our vision, and in the process. Refocusing is not always easy. It often involves making tough decisions, saying no to things that may seem appealing in the moment, and confronting the ways in which we may have been spreading ourselves too thin. But it is through this discipline and intentionality that we create the space for meaningful progress. Taking action is where ideas meet reality. It is the bridge between intention and outcome, the moment when plans and visions are transformed into tangible results. While reflection, resetting, and refocusing are crucial steps in any process, they ultimately remain theoretical until action is taken. It is through action that clarity becomes concrete, that dreams are translated into achievements, and that the future we envision begins to take shape. However, taking action is not as simple as it sounds. It demands courage, commitment, and a willingness to embrace imperfection, because action, by its very nature, involves stepping into the unknown and confronting the possibility of failure. There is often a tendency to wait for the perfect moment to act. We tell ourselves that we need more information, better resources, or clearer circumstances before we can move forward. But the truth is, perfection is a myth. The perfect moment rarely arrives, and if we spend our time waiting for it, we risk remaining stuck in a cycle of preparation without progress. Taking action requires us to let go of this need for perfection and to start where we are with what we have. It means accepting that we may not have all the answers and that the path ahead may not be entirely clear, but choosing to move forward anyway. One of the greatest challenges in taking action is overcoming fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, and fear of the unknown can all act as powerful barriers, keeping us from stepping out of our comfort zones and pursuing our goals. These fears are natural, but they are also limiting. To take action, we must acknowledge these fears and choose not to let them dictate our decisions. This does not mean ignoring fear or pretending it doesn't exist. On the contrary, it means facing it head-on, understanding its source, and taking action despite it. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the decision to move forward in its presence. Action is also inherently messy. It rarely unfolds in a straight line, and it often involves setbacks, missteps, and course corrections. This messiness can be discouraging, especially when we expect immediate results or flawless execution. But the reality is that progress is rarely linear. Every action we take, even the ones that don't lead to the desired outcome, teaches us something valuable. It provides us with feedback, helps us refine our approach, and brings us closer to our goals. In this sense, taking action is not just about achieving results, it's about learning and growing along the way. Each step, no matter how small or imperfect, is a step forward. Taking action also requires persistence. It's easy to start something when motivation is high, but maintaining momentum over the long term is far more challenging. There will be moments when progress feels slow, when obstacles seem insurmountable, and when the temptation to give up is strong. In these moments, persistence is key. It's about continuing to take action, even when it's difficult, and trusting that the effort will pay off in time. Persistence doesn't mean forcing ourselves to keep going without rest or reflection. It means committing to the process, even when it's not easy or convenient. Another important aspect of taking action is the ability to adapt. No matter how well we plan, the reality of execution often looks different from what we imagined. Circumstances change, unexpected challenges arise, and new opportunities present themselves. Taking action requires us to be flexible and open to adjusting our approach as needed. This adaptability is not a sign of weakness or indecision, it is a strength. It allows us to respond to changing circumstances with creativity and resourcefulness, ensuring that our efforts remain aligned with our ultimate goals. Taking action also involves collaboration. Rarely do we achieve great things entirely on our own. More often than not, progress requires the support, input, and expertise of others. Taking action means reaching out, building connections, and leveraging the strengths of those around us. It means recognizing that asking for help is not a sign of weakness, but a strategic choice that can accelerate our progress. Collaboration also requires humility, the willingness to listen, to learn, and to incorporate the perspectives of others into our efforts. By working together, we can achieve far more than we ever could alone. Action is not just about doing, it's about doing with intention. It's easy to stay busy, to fill our days with tasks and activities that give the appearance of productivity, but true action is purposeful. It is guided by our goals and values, and it is focused on what truly matters. This requires us to be deliberate in how we spend our time and energy, ensuring that our actions are aligned with our priorities. It also requires us to periodically assess our progress, asking whether the actions we're taking are moving us closer to our goals or whether we need to adjust our approach. Finally, taking action is an act of self-trust. It's about believing in our ability to make decisions, to handle challenges, and to navigate uncertainty. This self-trust is not about having all the answers or being immune to doubt. It's about knowing that, even if we make mistakes or face setbacks, we have the resilience and resourcefulness to keep moving forward. Taking action is a declaration of this trust. It's a statement that we are willing to bet on ourselves, to take risks, and to pursue the life and goals we envision. Growth is not just an outcome, it is a process. An ongoing journey of becoming more than we were yesterday. It's about expanding our capacity, deepening our understanding, and evolving into the fullest version of ourselves. Growth often begins in discomfort, in those moments when we are pushed beyond our limits and forced to confront challenges that stretch us in ways we never anticipated. It's in these moments of struggle that growth finds its roots, demanding that we adapt, learn, and rise to the occasion. But while growth is essential to progress, it is rarely easy. It requires effort, intention, and a willingness to embrace change even when it feels uncomfortable or uncertain. Growth starts with awareness of where we are now and where we want to go. This requires honesty, both with ourselves and with others. It means acknowledging our strengths and weaknesses, recognizing our patterns and habits, and identifying the areas where we need to improve. This self-awareness is not about self-criticism or judgment, it is about creating a foundation for growth by understanding who we are and what drives us. Without this clarity, growth becomes aimless, a vague aspiration without direction. Awareness gives us a roadmap, helping us to focus our efforts and make progress in meaningful ways. True growth often requires us to step outside our comfort zones. The comfort zone, while safe and familiar, is not a place where growth thrives. It is in the unfamiliar, in the challenges that push us beyond what we think we're capable of, that we truly begin to grow. Stepping outside our comfort zones can be intimidating. It means taking risks, facing uncertainty, and confronting the possibility of failure. But it is also exhilarating. It's in these moments of courage that we discover strengths we didn't know we had, build resilience we didn't know we needed, and unlock potential we didn't know existed. Growth is also deeply tied to failure. Society often glorifies success and shies away from failure, treating it as something to be avoided at all costs. But failure is not the opposite of growth, it is a crucial part of it. Every failure is a lesson, an opportunity to learn and improve. It teaches us what doesn't work, sharpens our problem-solving skills, and helps us develop the resilience to try again. Failure humbles us, reminding us that growth is not about perfection, but about persistence. Embracing failure as a natural part of the process allows us to take risks, to experiment, and to push the boundaries of what we believe is possible. One of the most powerful tools for growth is feedback. Feedback, when approached with an open mind, serves as a mirror, reflecting back to us the impact of our actions and decisions. It can highlight blind spots, challenge assumptions, and provide valuable insights that we might not see on our own. Receiving feedback requires humility, the ability to set aside our ego and genuinely listen. It's not always easy to hear where we've fallen short or where we need to improve, but it's in this discomfort that growth occurs. Feedback is a gift, one that helps us refine our approach and continue moving forward with greater clarity and purpose. Growth is not limited to individual effort, it often happens in connection with others. The relationships we build, the communities we engage with, and the perspectives we encounter all play a role in our growth. Surrounding ourselves with people who challenge us, inspire us, and hold us accountable can accelerate our progress in profound ways. These relationships serve as a source of support and encouragement, but they also push us to think bigger, to aim higher, and to become better. Growth is not a solitary journey, it is a shared experience, enriched by the contributions of those around us. Time and patience are essential for growth. In a world that often prioritizes instant results and quick fixes, it's easy to become frustrated when progress feels slow. But growth is not a destination to be rushed, it is a process that unfolds over time. It requires consistent effort, even when the results are not immediately visible. Just as a seed takes time to grow into a tree, our efforts often take time to bear fruit. Patience allows us to stay committed to the process, trusting that the small steps we take each day will eventually lead to meaningful progress. Learning is at the heart of growth. To grow is to continuously seek knowledge, to remain curious, and to approach life with a mindset of discovery. This doesn't necessarily mean formal education or structured learning. It can be as simple as being open to new experiences, asking questions, and seeking out different perspectives. Growth happens when we challenge our assumptions, broaden our horizons, and embrace the idea that we are never finished learning. A growth mindset, one that views challenges as opportunities and failures as lessons, is essential for unlocking our full potential. Growth also requires us to let go. Whether it's outdated beliefs, unhelpful habits, or toxic relationships, letting go of what no longer serves us is a necessary step in the process. This can be one of the most difficult aspects of growth, as it often involves confronting deeply ingrained patterns and stepping away from what feels familiar. But it is also liberating. Letting go creates space for new opportunities, new ways of thinking, and new possibilities. It allows us to move forward unencumbered, free to embrace the next chapter of our journey. Ultimately, growth is a choice. It is not something that happens to us passively, it is something we actively pursue. It requires effort, intention, and a commitment to becoming the best version of ourselves. It means choosing to see challenges as opportunities, failures as lessons, and setbacks as stepping stones. Growth is not always easy, and it often requires us to confront difficult truths, take risks, and push beyond what feels comfortable. But it is through this process that we transform, that we become more resilient, more capable, and more aligned with our purpose.